Hey everybody, this is Matt Jezyk from Motif, and I'm coming to you live from, well, it was sunny San Diego until about 5 minutes ago. And we are here today with my friend Bill Carney from DLR Group, and he's going to talk about some of the things that he's seeing in the industry. So this is a little bit less about software and technology and more about like how Bill and I are roughly the same age, like how the industry's changed over our time and how we as leaders can adapt to that. Before we get into that, a few other things. We're coming to you live because we are actually, Motif is a remote first company. And once a year, we get together for an on-site. So we have people all around the world, and they are all here this week planning out the rest of the year for our company. And this is a big year for us as a company and as a product. So I'm very excited about that. But we're not here to talk about technology and software and new software tools. It's more about the industry today. And I do want to mention also that this is open for questions. So if you have questions that come up that you're interested in, add them to the chat. We'll get to them at the end. Bill's really great at answering these questions live and ad hoc, even asking questions about his son's hockey team or anything else. That's totally fine too. This is from the ground up, the first session for this year from our webcast, and we're trying to split this up between bringing in friends and luminaries and then also getting into the weeds with some of the technology. So look forward to future sessions. But for today, what we're going to be talking about is really how the industry is changing. So how can we look to build the next generation of talent? What do we see for the people that are coming into the industry today or have come in over the last couple of years? How does that change practice? How does that change the way we develop teams? How does that change mentoring, both gray-haired people mentoring down to more junior people, but also the other way around? Like if there are new ideas that come into practice, so much of the way architecture engineering works thrives on new ideas, and many of them come in from people from schools. So what are we seeing today? That's kind of the overarching theme. And then ultimately, like the tools that you use shape your practice. So using that as a way to define like the culture and even like as a recruiting signal is an interesting thing. And then also obviously AI is a big aspect of any of this, and creativity. So there's kind of a big story arc here, but we have Bill here to talk to our team, and we thought it was a great opportunity to sit down together in a really nice location. I love the palm trees. Like, the East Coast is still covered with about 1.5 feet of snow. Bill lives up in Minneapolis, so we're loving the fact that it's 55, 56 degrees here today. It feels balmy.
Yeah, it's not bad.
I thought you were going to be in short sleeves today.
Considered it.
So, yeah. But Bill, welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So Bill Carney, I'm the design technology leader at DLR Group. I started there in 2019. Kind of bounced around a little bit. I started out in Chicago, went to San Diego and then St. Louis. Worked at small firms, big firms. Done a lot of architecture work. I've got the burden and curse of learning Revit in 2004. So everywhere, it's
I'm
your
sorry
fault.
I inflicted that on you.
It's your fault. But no, everywhere I worked, it's like, hey, do your job and then help us implement Revit. And so at one point, like mid-career, I kind of couldn't do both, and so I shifted in technology leadership, and that really, unlike the topics you're talking about, that's when I've hit into teaching, mentoring, and doing the things that I really found myself loving. So I haven't looked back.
That's amazing. And I think, like I said, so we're similar age, similar story arc. You're still creative and doing things, but then you have a fairly large team that you're working with too, right?
Yeah. And they range. Like some have architectural background, some don't. Some are pure software developers or data scientists.
And GIS people too.
Yeah. So a lot of it, you're trying to connect with them and understand what they're trying to do. And so I'm teaching like the process of design, the tools that they're supporting while we're trying to change the tools that we're supporting. And everybody is just trying to see where they fit in life. And we're in a firm that's just constantly growing anyways. So you're trying to like explain how, well, you may not see the job that you want today, but because we're going to grow, there's leadership bubbles that pop up, and how you navigate through the careers, like half our conversations.
I have to say, I've been really impressed with your team, like your staff and the people we've been collaborating with.
Yeah.
We've worked with you. Bill was one of our first design partners that we've worked with, even before we had any software. Really, I knew you before that, but like 3 years of working together, and then you were our first paying customer. So that's pretty amazing. So, but I've been really impressed. I think we've been in probably 5 or 6 of your offices so far, and really
maybe
talented.
more even. Yeah.
The
group's great. The firm's great. Like we've got wildly talented people everywhere. The team, like I always get talk that I've got the weirdest interviews because like I really just try to get to know the person. And I've hired people where they're like, why this person's not a traditional BIM person? Why are they hired? But they're like the right person, because it's the soft skills, it's the drive to learn, and what makes them great at what they're doing. And it's just team first as a team.
Exactly. And that's the interesting thing about, I mean, any of these design technology. And we are live, and we have seagulls around us, so we're watching out for. One thing I do think about, like any technology, any kind of like change sort of manifestation involves psychology, organizational behavior, politics, of course, but like people don't like change. So maybe you could even start with that. Like how does that work in your company?
I've had to do presentations, and I like put up like, hey, I'm in charge of technology and nobody likes technology, and I'm in charge of BIM and nobody likes BIM, and like it's a reality of like we're a large organization, and specifically DLR Group, they would say it's leadership without authority. And like I can't just say you will do this thing. I have to have it be a truly compelling reason. And so it becomes understanding the person and what they care about, what they know, and what their background's like. That, you know, every person's introvert, extrovert, different types of people, and they're driven in different ways. And then you layer that in with age, what they have to do as a role, what they like to do, what they have done, and you're just navigating all those things to have a message. So really, for every single thing that you're asking someone to do, you have to have like 4 to 6 messages for what that is. And you just constantly keep trying until you connect with the person with the one that resonates, and then you lean in and go far with it.
And that's got to be tricky too, because you've got kind of your team goals and corporate initiatives and principles and different practices that you're dealing with. So you have like responsibilities, but then you also have to match it up with the right people and their passions and what they bring to the table.
Half of that, it's like defining a language to things. Like, you know, today I talked about the buckets of BIM, and it's like the categories of design technology that I look at. But I get made fun of because I have so many like catchphrases. Like I love puns, I love phrases, but in reality, it's like to make an idea stick. And like I automate myself out of a job. I say a ton, but it's a mantra. And so then you can use that and lean in. And I always say like, hear what I mean, not what I say. Like the words don't matter, it's the intent behind. So I'll say something, and I'll say, well, the intent of this is this, so you can see through it with your lens. And that I think it helps, but you're always trying to adapt.
So maybe just even a little bit broader. So what are you seeing now as trends? I mean, DLR, pretty big company, you know, lots of offices, lots of different areas and sectors and sort of buildings being worked on, but also probably a decent amount of hiring, right? So like what does that look like as far as at the firm level, and specifically for your team? Like what are you guys looking for these days?
I want to say there was like 99 engineering positions posted this year as a whole. Like just it's rapid growth because we're an ESOP, we have to grow as a firm because it's the revenue that we put through. So you're always kind of, you know, fighting the general attrition of our industry, and people jump around. That's how things go. And so, you know, we do hire quite a bit, and like it's hard to keep pace with that. We've tried to say, look, we're going to grow as a firm, and we're going to try to offset that hiring demand by efficiency. So we put a heavy focus into automation for that. And so a lot of it's like document automation. I always say we're going to automate the mundane, or the things that you don't like to do, or the things that you aren't doing that like might roadblock you later and cause more time. So we try to create time to design, create times for the teams to focus where they really want to. I think that resonates because it lets them put their energy where they need to, and we can still grow as the revenue needs of a firm.
Yeah, of course. But there's the counter for that is like mentorship is like a real thing. Everybody's got to put in their time. You got to draw door details and toilet details for a couple of years before you do the real thing.
And then they're automated. And like, so when like I was talking about like the AI models where it's like I type words and I get a building and it's bam and it's done. Like, well, how you're not learning those steps. So you have to be very intentional. And I forget what it was, but basically like I don't want to automate something because then I won't learn it. Is like the kiss of death of like, well, if it's going to be automated by something else and you're not automating it, then your service is subpar to what that thing is. And so it's this delicate balance of how do I educate the person on what they need to do and automate it. So like we're exploring, like we've talked about it, we're not actually doing anything, but I'm like, do we gamify our automation tools? So like you start out with the sheet tool. As soon as you've done that 10 times, then you get the interior elevation tool.
Unlocks it,
yeah, like you've unlocked a new thing.
Wow.
And so like we did actually budget it this year. I have a budget for like gift cards that I can reward in some ways. So we'll actually as a team talk about how we'll implement that. That's one of the things we'll bring up.
That's a really cool idea. Yeah. So where do you, I mean, for your team, like even like everybody's creative in different ways, right? But like, how do you surface new ideas? How do you kind of promote creativity, both in your staff, but also at the firm level? Like, you know, the rise of AI, for example, like, let's talk Nano Banana for a second, or just like how AI rendering tools and images and idea generation is changing. And how do you kind of support that at a cultural level, but also protect against risk?
So we give framework for things. Like as a firm, we're a matrix. So there's a discipline leader, there's a sector leader, and then there's a region leader.
Okay.
All these different, like at the end of the day, they have the final say on something. And so if I come in and say, we're going to automate or switch to Motif for everything, one of those many people will say, no, you aren't. Right. And so you have to get them on board with it.
Right.
And it's hard to change 1,800 people at once. And so sometimes you look at like what are verticals that make sense together, or what are people type that make sense together. I've always looked at like, what if Revit stopped existing and I had to replace? I said that politely, of not switching, but like, you know, like what if I were actually going to switch from Revit to ArchiCAD? How would I go about doing that? I'd find the similar unique building types, like stadium for our sports group and culture and performing arts for theaters. Let them work together to figure it out while the rest of the firm stays where they are. And then you can figure out how it works and then translate and percolate around the firm. So you try to have improvement in different pockets.
And that's risk mitigation then too.
Yeah. Because then you can test and explore without the whole firm at once.
But then how do you even empower like somebody, that's a great idea, go run with that, go figure it out?
For us, like, you know, I've got my first 3 things on all design technology is, does it increase efficiency? Does it improve quality? And does it enhance our ability to design? That's like first. Then after that, it's adaptability, it's cost, the other things. And then for my team, like we do a lot of like scripting and coding. And so it's less often of like grab something from the shelf and more it's, hey, we're going to script this or build this. And so we just put this rule of 10X in of like whatever you're being asked to do, because everything can improve always. That's like something, but if you keep doing like marginal gains, you're not getting far. So we say as long as it can like shave a week off of the project or a month of time, or the amount of time it takes you to do the thing is 1/10 of the time it takes you to code the thing, then it's worth the risk, because you always know if it's going to work.
Okay.
And so you know, just 10X de-risking kind of idea with it.
And then if it works, then you do it again and again and again.
Yeah.
And then you get more budget for it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess more specifically, like what are the kids these days talking about? Like what are you hearing from the staff floor that's different from maybe 4 or 5 years ago?
I mean, Nano Banana was everywhere.
Yeah.
Like it's some AI tool every day. And that's the hard part, is keeping up with that. So that is first and foremost by far. 2 years ago, like NFTs was popping up everywhere.
Okay.
So it's always something kind of one-off from what you are. Like for us, we as a firm are trying to be on the leading edge of technology as a whole. And that's why we're working with companies like yours. We're trying to drive where it goes.
Right.
So it is hard where like students come out and it's like, yeah, we're working with these, like we're in Silicon Valley and these other areas. And so like we think we're ahead of where we are, but you still have to listen and you have to hear what they're using, because there are some great ideas that come out of the schools.
But like, I mean, I guess what I'm seeing is like a little bit less computational design, scripting, and then more on like the generative AI versus like writing code or doing visual programming.
Yeah, we are seeing vibe coding. And that was a big shift of, I'd say 2019, every student coming out was yelling about, you need to be using Rhino and not Revit or SketchUp. And then we're starting to see a little bit of a flip because of the ability to vibe code and the ability to just not have to script to get the solution. Where like Grasshopper's hard.
Yeah.
A Rhino Grasshopper user can do amazing things, but you have to be really good at the tool and use it all the time, where many people want the fastest way to get the result they're trying to get to, which...
And it's fast. I mean, it's like within 5 minutes. Like I was doing something on Friday, which was, I had some couches for something like just a layout, like similar to what we're sitting in. And I said, make some culturally appropriate people sitting on that couch.
Yeah.
And I, you know, ordinarily I'd have to like download stuff from like real people and like put it in the right spot and model it. And it just worked. And they even like, it took it farther. It like, there were freaking iPads in their hands, and like there's kids like reading books, and it felt really like genuine.
Yeah.
And it got past like the uncanny valley kind of thing. Like it didn't feel weird. There were no 6-finger men or anything else like that.
And like we had a tool that scripted like putting people into seats.
Yeah.
And like you're like rotating, you're, you know, making sure that they're not the same person, or at least not the same person in a section kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was hard. Yeah. And then now it just type happens. It and it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild.
But I guess maybe like, so for like a studio head or principal that, you know, like the older, you know, gentleman with the bow tie or woman that, you know, has been around for a while, what like mentorship kind of goes both ways, right? Like, so taking the creativity and passion and inspiration from the people that are, you know, maybe just out of school, new grads, new kind of first 5 years of employment, like how does that work? How do they kind of mentor up a little bit too?
Well, they really need to, even like populating people in a rendering, talking through why that matters and how through some of the experiences you've had. And like we're in a very politically charged environment, and you may have a client that if you put too many people of color, they react in a bad way, or not enough, they react in the other way. And like it's about understanding the person and what you're trying to communicate, and communicate the design and how. And so like we internally had a big focus on just storytelling. And it's like talking through that so that the person who now has tools that just spit out design left and right actually understands the intentionality behind it, so that they're doing it with purpose.
Right. And that's always the blessing and the curse. Like these new tools are enabling, but you can almost tell like there's like a little less rigor, like they haven't done the work.
Yeah.
So like it's sort of like renderings before, or like sections in Revit or whatever. It's like, it used to be hard to do that stuff. Now you can do it for free. Like you could be pretty lazy in your storytelling or lose the plot.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and with that, like more rigor on quality control, more rigor on reviewing, even if it's just the story itself. Like if I'm a senior person, if this project is so much faster to be done, that is time I should be investing back into the company, and that's teaching that person, the next generation, what it is and why and how to do it better. And that's something I've seen like my whole career, because I came out in a recession. It's been very focused on billability, where it's a profession of like mentorship or apprenticeship, where you learn and studied under somebody. There's not the hours to do that. And like the person that needs to mentor an apprentice is the person with the highest billable hours in the firm. Totally. So how do you have the time to just shadow someone? You don't.
Yeah.
So you have to find ways to bake that in and be very intentional about it, and just be a long-winded old person just talking too much.
Well, that's what we get definitely a lot of the okay boomer stuff ourselves. But but I think like it's also like it goes both ways, right? Like so you can argue, I mean, you know, there's inflation, sort of the economy and all that kind of stuff. Billings are down across the board for architects, if you look at the AI billings, but conversely, efficiency is up. Like I looked at the numbers because I gave a presentation yesterday here about that. And over the last 2 or 3 years, it's been 13-14% efficiency gains across the top 300 firms. Yeah, obviously disproportionately towards the bigger companies, but like, so there's, and we can talk about like cyclical economic cycles, but there's always this opportunity to retool. Like if it's a tighter time, you can, double down on what's working and not working. And retrain, invest in new things, even though it feels like it might not be the great time to like go out and buy something new or spend the time doing it. You can take that time while you're a little less busy to get a little bit more efficiency and also learn from the next generation. And then when you come out, then you pop more.
Well, and even like a lot of times when we get busy or light, we'll have people to start making like Revit libraries. And like we have them in droves. Like, we always start it and then we don't finish it. And like, that's not the answer. Like focus on something. And like, I'm very focused on AI and where we go. And the big problem we have is like tagging data. Like it's just hard to do. And so like focus on, like, we've got this tool to do life safety analysis. Like the more you've run it, the smarter our tools get. So, and then you learn how life safety goes. So just spend your time learning life safety. Like run the tool on like 50 projects so that we get consistent data on those projects. You learned how it worked. You gave us feedback to make it better. And we got data for AI to train to improve ourselves.
That's the other thing. And that's another thread I want to talk about is like, so you guys, you mentioned automation a lot. I know your team. I know the investment you've made personally and with your team to automate a lot and build your own technology while working with other vendors. Because you can actually harvest that data and you can learn from it and you can use it. But even, is that another opportunity? Like you mentioned data scientists and so there are other sort of adjacent disciplines before, but like does that give them an opportunity to kind of step up in the firm and take on like a more leadership opportunity too?
Absolutely. And some of it's like, we have these conversations of data governance, and which for us is policy. It's like, well, I really want to have rigid structures, but 10 other people make that decision. So we have to like walk that balance. But to really understand a business and start to add value to every person, and like even like looking back at myself in the mirror, my job has always been to understand what you need to do, because like my background is architectural, but I do this for engineering or interior design, like landscape architecture. Like you learn what somebody else has to do and then help them do it. And so but at the end of the day, you now just understand the business and you understand what drives it. And so like it just creates nothing but opportunity when you're trying to improve through technology.
And that's a great advice for anybody in design technology. How do you align yourself? It's not about the technology. It's about what you can do for the firm to provide value. And think about it in terms of like, back to the psychology and organizational behavior. And it's not even about what makes you look good. It's like, how do you help the firm? And talk to business leaders in business terms as opposed to technology.
Yeah. And we do, like, because every year it's initiatives everywhere. I do, it's called the Jar of Rocks exercise. But I mentioned like the 3 things for what we would use for design technology, efficiency, quality, and design. We basically say like, what are things we need to improve? And then we tag them by that and then come up with other values. And the idea behind that is like the jar of rocks analogy is put the big rocks in and then fill the medium and then the sand. And so you're always like grading out an improvement by a big rock. And then I'll do different categories of like, okay, this year we need to focus on what gets us good data. So rate these by 1 to 10 by good data, or put a multiplier on good data. And now you've got different big rocks based on what your initiatives are.
Which is funny because like you mentioned the big rocks, like we use that in software all the time. Like that came from like a lot of agile software development. If you focus on just the little things, you're going to fill up your jar and you won't have space for the big rocks. But if you focus on the big stuff first, then the little stuff fills in around it. So.
Well, and for us, again, if we're trying to make a large improvement in our process, the little rocks aren't going to do it. It's the big chunks of change. And that's why I say like a week of time minimum. Ideally, I want to get like a person not required to do a project, or a month of time shaved off from a project. There's a whole value proposition of I reduce the schedule by a month. Like that can be to the client and your building's open a month earlier. It could be to us and just profit. Like there's so many ways to look at that.
Totally. I do want to switch and talk about, we've got a bunch of questions coming in. And if anybody that's on right now, if you have a question, feel free to add it. We'll have time to get to it. So a couple things here. So we'll start close to home. So I'm a mentor at the University of Minnesota, and looking for or asking a student, asking for students like what kind of tools would they use, like something like Motif. The U is way behind in use of other collaboration tools. Like what would you recommend, like in the studio session inside of a university? Like what would be a way to help them explore new technologies there, but also help them in their critique and like understanding in a studio environment?
So I do teach. I teach at WashU digital construction technology, and so like that's the whole focus, and it's introducing them to different things based on different tasks and categories, and then giving them ways to break down how it worked and learn the tool. So it's I had a teacher in undergrad that literally just said you need to learn as much technology as possible, and he gave me a pirated version of Revit. I can say now because it was not Autodesk, so I know it's fine. But like that sort of like here, give them access, show them how to do that, but then don't carry your own bias. One thing that I've seen is like some firms or like schools will say no Revit, and then the person comes out and they don't know the primary design production tool of every firm. So like don't imply your bias, but imply why you would choose Revit versus Rhino versus SketchUp versus Blender versus the others, and that I think helps them get where they need to get.
Okay, yeah, we can get back to that. And there's other ones around here too. So let's see. What's the biggest misconception firms have about what young architects actually want out of their careers?
We get very focused on mentorship as a whole, and then we create like mentorship committees often, and it's very forced pairing, which some people that works for, others like you don't. Like I've never picked a mentor and had that work out. It's more of an organic thing that happens, or like I learned from this person for a point in time. So to me, it's making sure that firms put people in position and give them the freedom to do the mentoring that is needed, instead of I need to create this rigid mentorship program that isn't actually mentoring them on their job of what they're truly asking for. Or it's like, I need training, then they just give it Revit 101 training. I'm like, no, they need to know how to do their job. So align it to, this is how I do a space program. This is how I lay out or this is how I lay out a parking lot. Like that's the mentorship that is not always happening. And that's what we need to focus in on.
And too often people get pigeonholed, like, like even just like from an ARE standpoint, like you need to learn about the multiple sections of practice. And it's really hard to get, like programming, for example. It's really easy to get all your details and stuff and schedules. But I think ultimately people are people, right? So like that's why I don't like the people that are like, I have a son who's going to graduate college this spring. His goals, his aspirations are not any different from mine when I was that age. It's not like, I don't feel like it's generational, like Gen X versus like, whatever. It's just like everybody has motivation. So, but I think that's the key thing is like, how do we as leaders in a practice, like help listen to where people are, what skills and values they're coming into the company with, and then cultivate that and give them opportunities. I think is interesting. With the lens of technology too. So let's see. So a couple other ones here. How do you see the role of the architect evolving over the next decade, or what should you be preparing for? Like not even now, but over the next 10 years.
So I think I don't know if I'm allowed to talk to the interns anymore because I go way too. I'm very dystopian.
Oh, it's not an HR thing. That's good. That's
not HR. It's just like I had one. Literally, I like talked to them about technology, and two from the group pulled me aside. They're like, "Do I need to change my major?" I'm like, "No, I hit it too hard." But to like look objectively at what's happening, like I think AI is going to fundamentally change many of the things in our jobs, and so I've always been a person that focuses on like career preservation and like. Make sure you fill your bucket with all the tools that you need to be able to keep a job and be very employable. And so when I look at things that may roll off based on AI, it's what else do you need to do? And so I would say it's like it's a major and a minor. Like my major is architecture, interior design, or engineering, whatever that is. Then what's my minor that complements it? Is it environmental psychology or just psychology, or is it data skills, or is it programming? I always try to have two things that balance me out so that I'm very valuable in other ways. And I also look at what experience in the project cycle I have and make sure that I've done that. And so that's what I think every person should be doing.
And also, I mean, it's not even just that generation. It's like, I just see it as like a lifelong learning thing.
It's across the board,
Like, I mean, like vibe coding is a good example. Like it's such, like it lowers the barrier to entry for making your own tools. Like our philosophy is like, you may not even have an application that has primary interface anymore. Like you could just chat with the thing and build your own tool set. And that comes along with you. The similar like to if you were in the trades, like you had your tools that you bring to the job site. So that's kind of good. One other thing, you mentioned efficiency before, like as one of your primary goals, but like, how do you even measure that?
So we do have a data tracker in the back end of everything we build. And so we track like the time it took to do a thing, what was done, projects that was on there. We look at profitability of the projects. We look at the duration of time. So it's everywhere. It is the hardest thing because everything that I introduce and save time, they put something else into the project, and you're comparing project A to project B, and they're very different. So we don't have a hard measurement of it. It's more of a bunch of soft measurements to like gut check yourself and know that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we are coming up on time here. So let's see. I'll skip a few of these. So how do you think firms should be investing in training while they focus heavily on billable work? Like if you're in sort of a flat area now, like how do you even get budget for training?
Well, it's honestly like tracking what you haven't done and put you onto it. Contractors charge the client for training of like how to use a tool. For some reason, design firms won't do it. And like you're immediately more efficient if I take 1 hour to teach you how to do the thing. Why wouldn't I do that?
Or I heard of the opposite. It's like, I don't have time to train that person myself. And if we invest in training them, they're just going to leave. Well, what's the alternative? They're going to stay and be half as efficient.
Well,
so,
thanks.
Like, great. And then one last one, and we're coming up on time. So we talk about efficiency, but without asking the owner or like the person that's paying you ultimately, like what they value too. Like if there's an internal efficiency versus like what matters to the people that you're providing service or value to. How do you make sure you rectify those, like internal understanding of efficiency or like goals versus external?
Well, and some of that, like we're talking about shaving the time off of the project. Like there's the time duration of the project as efficiency, but then there's the efficiency of the design itself. Like we do a lot of analysis of the
like
floor plate. Well, more of like literally there's net square footage and gross square footage of a design, and like the difference is the space that's unused based on what you design the building. So like the circulation and things. Mm-hmm. So an efficient design itself has less space required, which costs less for the client. So like we design, we analyze so we have the most efficient design is a whole level of efficiency that we never talk about. Or we programmed it really well and they didn't need an entire floor of a building. That's now a huge cost that they don't have. There's the environmental aesthetic of it. It's material we didn't build because it's a whole level, and it's figuring out what matters to them.
And then presenting those trade-offs. Like, you're like, look, aesthetically, it's going to be different this way, qualitatively, but then quantitatively, like, here's your cost, here's your schedule, here's the efficiency, operation, all that kind of stuff. So these are all awesome. And then they're all unlocked by basically a strong design technology, core group inside of your company, and having them be partners with the projects, right? I mean, so
that's the hope.
That's the key thing. So we are at time. So this, like I said, this is going to be a little bit of a lightning round. Like the in-person aspect of it was fortunate because we were here in San Diego and we had Bill here. So definitely want to appreciate and thank you, time.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yep.